there, South Mississippi. Meteorologist Taylor Graham here, coming to you in our newsroom this Sunday evening. Wanted to give an update on what we're watching in the tropics, plus a look ahead at your work week forecast. But the big buzz in the weather world today has been what is now considered potential tropical cyclone 18 that has formed from Invest 97L in the Caribbean. And the reason why we're watching this is because there is a chance that it could be moving into the Gulf of Mexico, or there's actually a pretty good chance it will be moving into the Gulf of Mexico as we head into the middle of the week. Trying to get my graphics here to work. For some reason, I'm having some technical difficulty. I'm not sure what's going on. There we go. Just having a case of the Mondays, it seems like my graphics are. So we'll go ahead and dive in to what we are tracking in the tropics. Sorry about that. Had a little hiccup there. So potential tropical cyclone 18. That's what we're mainly going to be focused on over the next few days. That is in the southern Caribbean. Hurricane hunters did fly through it today. They found the close center of circulation, but not much thunderstorm activity around that center of circulation. That's why it wasn't considered to be a tropical depression just yet. Elsewhere, just to touch base, we do have Tropical Storm Patty way out there in the Atlantic, the northern Atlantic. That could be impacting Portugal and Spain over the next few days, but that is not going to be a concern for us. And to the north of Hispaniola, we also could see some tropical development, although those chances are low. So potential tropical cyclone 18 moving to the north right now, slowly at about 6 miles per hour. And we did get a new forecast track in from the National Hurricane Center as of 9 o'clock this evening. It does call for this system to strengthen into a Category 1 hurricane before approaching the western part of Cuba at some point by the middle of the week, roughly looking at Wednesday right now. When it does get a name, the name is going to be Rafael, and that could happen as early as tomorrow. So we may have a new tropical storm at that point. As it moves into the Gulf of Mexico, the good news is it looks like environmental conditions are not favorable for sustaining a tropical system. Basically what that means is as it moves up into the northern Gulf of Mexico, the water is going to be cooler, the wind shear is going to be stronger, and there also could be some dry air getting wrapped into the system by the time it tries to move farther to the north. Now, the National Hurricane Center at this point by Friday still has the system as a tropical storm. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if it's going to be a little bit weaker than having winds of 65 miles per hour. And when they put out their first forecast cone, it did clip coastal Mississippi. Looks like the last one took us out, but there is still plenty of time to watch this and a lot of uncertainty with where exactly this system may go as it tries to move farther up to the northern Gulf Coast. So at some point we could be back into the cone. This is not set in stone. Keyword there is uncertainty. It's pretty wide at the end by Friday and even beyond that. So just a heads up that we could technically be back in the cone at some point by tomorrow. Just a lot of factors at play with where exactly the system is going to go. But I do want to emphasize that generally speaking, it does look like it's going to be encountering some wind shear and some dry air once it moves up into the northern Gulf of Mexico by the end of the week. I apologize again for some reason having some graphic issues tonight. Let's see if I can get some of those spaghetti plots to come back here. There we go. So notice how these model plots are concentrated together pretty well throughout the Caribbean and into Cuba, and then they really diverge once they get into the Gulf of Mexico. What that indicates to us is there's a lot of uncertainty with where exactly the system is going to be going, and the time frame in the Gulf of Mexico roughly going to be between Thursday and Saturday of this upcoming week. So we have to fine-tune those details. What's driving this northwest pattern into the Gulf is this ridge of high pressure that's sitting off the east coast in the Atlantic. If the ridge is going to be stronger, that may steer the system farther to the west. If it's going to be weaker, that may allow the system to move a little bit more so into the northeast Gulf Coast. So again, a lot of details to work out with this. Once the system gets a little bit more well-defined, forecast models should have a better grasp of where it's going to go. So just to sum it up with potential tropical cyclone 18, likely going to be a Category 1 hurricane before reaching Cuba. In the Caribbean, the water is very warm, in the mid-80s, the wind shear is lower. Conditions are pretty favorable for this to strengthen as it moves up into the Caribbean. As it gets into the Gulf, it may still be a hurricane, but then as it moves into the northern Gulf, it will be encountering some stronger wind shear, some cooler water, and some dry air. And that could really weaken it by the time it tries to make its way up into the U.S. Of course, we will closely monitor. Things are not set in stone. I will say, though, the best case scenario, I would say for us, is that the system weakens to where the wind and surge not going to be an issue, but we could at least get some moisture to get some much needed rainfall. We do need that, so it's maybe not all bad, again, if it weakens significantly before reaching somewhere along the northern Gulf Coast. So again, we will continue to monitor this closely. It's probably not what you thought we would be talking about in early November. It's not overly common to get tropical systems in the Gulf in November, but hurricane season does not officially end until the end of the month. So not too common, but not unheard of. So that's something we will continue to monitor over the next several days. And like I said, the next name on the list is Rafael. Very likely going to be hearing that name a lot more this upcoming week as we continue to track this system. Here for the time being, it's warm, it's breezy, and it's still humid. We still are in the upper 70s in Gulfport right now. Does not feel like a November night. We've got that strong breeze out of the south and east, and I've heard of reports of some coastal flooding going on. We are under a coastal flood advisory tonight. That's been upgraded to a coastal flood watch, I've been told, for southern Hancock County tomorrow, and we are approaching high tide right now. Temperatures across the board in the mid to upper 70s, very warm for this time of the year. The wind and the humidity will prevent us from cooling down much at all. There are a few isolated showers across the area this evening. If you're lucky, you'll get hit with a few of those overnight tonight into Monday, and we will keep a chance for a few more of those showers throughout the day on Monday. First alert radar right now, as of about 9:30, showing a couple of those showers in northern Harrison County, also into southern Stone County. It's not much, but we'll take what we can get. Things are pretty dry here across the area, and at least day in and day out, we will continue to have a chance for a few more showers here or there. We've got a big area of high pressure to our northeast that continues to reinforce that southeast wind, and that's why it's going to be so breezy. A front will try to approach us by Tuesday, not going to move through completely. We're going to be stuck in that warmer air, and like I had mentioned earlier, with that strong onshore flow, we have heard of some coastal flooding ongoing this evening. Coastal flood advisory in effect for Harrison and Jackson counties. Tomorrow night, we may be dealing with more of the same as we get closer to high tide, and that's why Hancock County is under that coastal flood watch. They could be seeing flooding as high as 2.5 feet. So we are approaching high tide right now. We will be coming up on low tide tomorrow morning, and then the following day for Monday, we will be approaching high tide once again very late at night, even into the overnight hours, it looks like, for Bay St. Louis, and the wind is going to be pretty strong, especially right along the coast. So tomorrow, we may see some gusts over 25 miles per hour throughout the day. It's going to be very breezy. Again, looking at that onshore flow, it does seem like as we get into Tuesday and Wednesday, I still expect it to be breezy. Wind maybe not quite as strong. We'll see if they're going to extend that coastal flood advisory or not, but at least by Tuesday, it doesn't look like the wind is going to be quite as strong around the area. Overnight tonight and throughout the day on Monday, could see some quick passing showers. They may not be much, but we'll take any rain that we can get at this point. It will be another warm, humid day tomorrow. Temperatures back into the low 80s for the most part. And then on Tuesday, we kind of do it all over again. We'll start off in the upper 60s and low 70s. And by the afternoon, we are going to be getting back into the low to mid 80s. And just like today and tomorrow, there's a chance for a few isolated showers. Now, depending on what happens with potential tropical cyclone 18, we may have to bump up rain chances by Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. It really just all depends on where exactly the system is going to go. But if it does move a little bit closer to us, we may see more rainfall by the end of the week. So that's a wait and see. As for tomorrow, Election Day, and Wednesday, 30%, yeah, just a few passing showers, but it's better than nothing. If you've been wanting some cooler weather around here, well, we really don't have much of that in the forecast. It seems like I've been on the lookout for a cold front for a while. Just not in the cards at this point. We are looking at warmer than average temperatures over the next several days, at least through the 9th through the 13th. So eventually we will be cooling down at some point, but it's just not in the cards for this week. Most days this week we're likely going to top out in the low to mid 80s, still going to be a little humid, and of course tomorrow and Tuesday still breezy. Which, by the way, Election Day on Tuesday, weather shouldn't be too much of an issue getting to the polls. Could see a few isolated showers, but other than that, not a bad forecast. Again, just a heads up, depending on what happens with potential tropical cyclone 18, we may have to bump up those rain chances by Friday and Saturday if we see some of that moisture moving in from the Gulf of Mexico with that upcoming system. So stay tuned on that. Just going back to what we're watching with PTC 18, if it does move up into the northern Gulf of Mexico, it does look like it will be encountering some wind shear and some dry air that could help to weaken it. Of course, we will monitor those trends to let you know if anything changes. But that is some good news regarding the tropics. Plus, I was even just checking the water temps here across near the Sound and in Back Bay. We're in the mid to upper 70s, which generally speaking, tropical systems like water warmer than 80 degrees. So at least the water along the northern Gulf Coast, also a little bit cooler. I will have another update coming up at 10 o'clock for our regularly scheduled newscast, so you can join me there. We'll go back over what we've talked about here, but you know, if you want another recap of what we are going to be watching in the tropics and with the rest of your forecast this week. So stay tuned. We will continue to keep you updated as we get more information. Wesley will have another update coming up tomorrow morning, early in the morning on Good Morning Mississippi, and I will be back in tomorrow also for our midday show. So with that being said, everyone have a wonderful Sunday evening, and we hope that you will join us at 10 o'clock.